Bear Independent Brief, 29 September 25. The ongoing breaking news. Yesterday, in Michigan, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, a facility in Grand Blanc Township, was attacked. They believe we're going to get into that in a moment, was attacked by a gentleman by the name of Thomas Jacob Sanford from Burton, a city of nearly 30,000 people, roughly 6 miles away from where the attack took place. Police say the attacker ran the church with a vehicle, got out, opened fire with an assault rifle. This is all coming from NBC News. By the way, assault rifle is a ridiculous term that the left and the communists throw around. Assault rifle is a technical term. This is not an assault rifle. Here's why this is not an assault rifle. This is the safety selector. It has safe and semi. It doesn't go all the way around. So, while it meets almost all the definitions of an assault rifle, intermediate cartridge, magazine fed, it's not select fire. It's not automatic. It's semi-automatic. One trigger press, one round. AR-15s are not by definition, assault rifles. By their definition, any rifle I assault you with is an assault rifle. If I butt stroke you with an M1 Garand, that's an assault rifle. Continuing. Let's see. There appears to have been accelerant used to start a fire at the church. At least 4 people were killed in the attack. 2 of them were shot, and 8 were injured. Officers killed Sanford in a parking lot behind the church. The Bureau is looking for a motive, says the FBI. The FBI is now leading the investigation and is investigating this as an act of targeted violence. Sanford left the Marine Corps in 2004, according to Marine records. MOS of organizational automotive mechanic, and vehicle recovery operator. In 2007, started a nearly 7-month deployment under Operation Iraqi Freedom, left the Corps a few months later, according to records. Achieved the rank of sergeant, had his last duty at Camp Lejeune in North Carolina before he left the Marines in June 2008. Awarded the Marine Corps Good Conduct Medal, Sea Service Deployment Ribbon, Iraq Campaign Medal, the Global War on Terror Service Medal, and National Defense Service Medal, records show. An image uploaded to Facebook in 2019 shows Thomas Jacob Sanford wearing a Trump 2020 shirt. We're going to address all of that. So, analysis, opinion. This whole thing is glowy AF. What does glowy mean? It means certain subsets of the IC intelligence community and or federal apparatus were absolutely involved in this because of the optics. So we're going to take a white guy with a Trump 2020 shirt in a truck that has an Iraq veteran license plate on the back of it with 4 American flags sticking out of it. Those flags likely so new that they still had the folds in them from being recently unpackaged. He's going to ram a building and set it on fire. Now, I'm not saying that this guy didn't do it, but this is what we call a complex terror attack. There were very likely other accomplices here. And so the individual motivations of this Marine, unknown at this time. Also, we need to bring up that there are 2 other jarheads in the last 48 hours that I believe at bars in New Jersey and South Carolina, don't quote me on that last one, opened fire as well. If it was me, if I was the bad guy, let me put my bad guy hat on. Yeah, I would co-opt and brainwash this dude, specifically for the optics, because of the talking points. Let's think about the talking points here. The first talking point is Christianity in America is under attack. And it is. And it has been. And it will continue to be, my brothers and sisters in Christ. So you need to act accordingly. What does that mean? Well, I got the news of this attack as it was ongoing yesterday while I was at the range with 18 of my congregants doing a fighting pistol class. We expended a little over 5,000 rounds of ammunition in about 4 hours, shooting from behind and around cover and while moving, not just standing still. Pew, 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 clang, clang, clang. Okay, you need to learn to fight with your weapon systems, and you need to know it, not think you know it. Trauma med. Okay, pre-hospital trauma medicine. Some snarky person on the internet said, well, question, Pastor, why were you at the range on Sunday when you should have been in church? Well, answer, random asshole on the internet, it's because we have chosen, based upon a conviction, to keep a biblical Sabbath. Not a Jewish Sabbath, a biblical Sabbath. So Sunday is not the day of worship for us. Now you do you. You do whatever you're convicted to do, but people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. So Christendom is under attack. And so one of the major talking points right now is we're not going to take this anymore. Okay. Now, we shouldn't take this anymore. Just so we're all on the same page here. We should never have a VBED, vehicle-borne IED, an active shooters on church property, period, or school property, or anywhere else. These situations should be handled. So you should have a competent and complex security team and security plan for your places of worship. All right? The serpent has enmity with the seed of the woman. They, whoever they are, however you define them, will kill you for what you say, Charlie Kirk. And they will kill you for what you believe, Michigan. That's absolutely true. But what's also absolutely true is these narratives have been crafted and then co-opted in order to further divide the citizens of the United States of America. And that's something that we need to be super careful about. Watch the narratives. Que bono, who benefits from this? That doesn't change the tactical implications for us that we need to be able to defend ourselves. But we definitely need to be asking the strategic questions. Why? Which goes back to this feels super glowy. Just the optics of this, the photo op of this. And it's incredibly unlikely that one individual with complex PTSD and hyperthyroidism, which is what they're claiming in the articles about this dude, that one individual pulled this off. Additionally, we know more about this guy in under 24 hours than we know about the Butler, Pennsylvania shooter who was shooting at Trump. Okay. That is always very interesting to me. Also, first 36, first 24, you'll hear different rules thrown around. The 24-hour rule, the 36-hour rule is in effect. What does that mean? It means that, by and large, first reports are almost always wrong, and the information that we get in the first 24 to 36 is almost always wrong. So that's something to keep in mind as well. This feels like an op. This doesn't feel like a random act of violence. It feels like an op, and that's something that we need to be paying attention to, which goes back to que bono. Why? So two things can be true at the same time. The first thing that's true at the same time is Christendom is under attack, and it will continue to be, and we need to act like it. The second thing that's true is that the attack that it's under isn't necessarily organic at the tactical level, that there are puppet masters pulling strings, and that's what I really want to know is who. It doesn't change the fact that we need to be able to defend ourselves and our loved ones in the moment at the tactical level. So we're going to continue to keep an eye on this individual here, former jarhead, now no longer breathing. Feels like a setup. I'm not saying he didn't do it, but it feels like a setup. It just feels Weird. Which then brings us to the written brief for today. Concerned speculations were sparked when Defense Secretary, I thought he was War Secretary. Well, it depends. It depends on which piece of paperwork you're looking at. Ordered hundreds of generals and admirals from around the world to gather at Marine Corps University in Quantico, Virginia. Military leaders from distant locations like South Korea, Japan, and across the Middle East are being flown in, likely costing millions of taxpayer dollars at a time when the government faces a possible shutdown. Well, when it comes to government shutdown, do your job. We talked about that previously. Liquidated damages for Congress. They should have a budget in place and voted on, minimum 30 days before the previous budget expires, and every day beyond that, 30 days prior, that they don't have. Each member of Congress owes the American people, call it $10,000 a day, each individual member. The security implications are equally concerning, with the country's top military brass concentrated in one highly publicized location. Agreed. There are also concerns among military officials about potential firings and demotions, good, as well as general concerns about a potential loyalty check, good, as this administration ramps up, air quote, inappropriate use of its military against its own populace. Well, we'll see. Define inappropriate. The National Guard and the military, different ROEs, different mission sets, different. Also, if a mayor or a governor fails to enact and ensure the security of their own populace, we can now argue 10th Amendment versus federal government. But in places like Portland, Chaz Chop, remember all that, Memphis, Washington, D.C., etc., where crime is rampant, I'm for the preservation of life, and I'm for boys and girls in uniform ensuring the preservation of life. Now, I will also acknowledge it sets a precedent that may become a slippery slope at a later date by a different administration that maybe cares less about a certain subset of the population than the current administration does. And so that's something that we always want to be watchful for as well. Lieutenant General Ben Hodges compared the unprecedented gathering to a, quote, 1935 surprise assembly in Berlin where German generals were required to swear a personal oath to the Fuhrer, end quote. Well, Lieutenant General Ben Hodges sounds like somebody who might not be employed much longer. While there was very little information available at first, sources have since reported that Hegseth plans to deliver what one senior Trump administration official called a, quote, rally the troops message focused on military standards and the, quote, warrior ethos, end quote. Now, the rumor is that this is going to be a 1 hour long presentation, unscripted, no PowerPoint, no handouts. Basically, gentlemen, get on board or get out of the way. You pick. A White House official told CNN the event is intended as a, quote, show of force of what the military now looks like, end quote, during Trump's second presidency. More telling was a military official's blunt assessment, quote, it's about getting the horses into the stable and whipping them into shape, and the guys with the stars on their shoulders make for a better audience from an optic standpoint. This is a showcase for Hegseth to tell them get on board or potentially have your career shortened, end quote. Now, people will rail against this. I don't care. As founder and CEO of more than a half a dozen different businesses and 501c3s currently, I hire good people and I let good people do their jobs. And their jobs, they tend to be more competent at those things than I am, which is why I hired them in the first place. But it's my job to cast the vision, to lead, to point us in the appropriate strategic direction, and to recommend courses of action that are in the best interest of the company and therefore in the best interest of the individuals inside of the company. Hegseth's role is no different. Okay, so he is given orders and vision from the commander-in-chief, the President of the United States of America, and then his job is to make sure that all of his subordinates, all of his people are rowing in the same direction. Now, those people may not agree with what that direction is. However, they've sworn an oath, and they are subordinate to the commander-in-chief. And so they can do what is required of them to accomplish the mission, or they can GTFO. There have been many talks that I have given at my organizations and said, hey, this is what we're doing. This is the direction we're going. If anybody disagrees with that, that's okay. Love you. The door's right there. Don't let it hit you in the ass on your way out. And if you think I'm lying, ask anybody inside any of my organizations. Hegseth has already moved aggressively to reshape the Pentagon since taking office. So far, he's ordered a 20% reduction in 4-star generals and admirals. Yeah, because we have 4 times as many 4-star generals now as we did in World War II. And a 10% cut in flag and general officers overall. In other words, we have a lot of chiefs and not enough Indians right now. And all indicators are, we are going to war in the near term. When, where, depends on who you ask, but all indicators are we are going to war in the near term. In recent months, he's dismissed more than a dozen senior military officials, leading retired Army General Lieutenant General Mark Hertling to describe the planned gathering as something he had, quote, never seen before. Hertling speculated it could involve cuts to the General Officer Corps, or that Secretary Hegseth has fired 12 senior ranking officers, so he could be firing more, end quote. Meanwhile, immigration enforcement operations are creating friction in sanctuary jurisdictions across the country. In Broadview, Illinois, village officials claim ICE informed local police that it would be a shit show in retaliation for the community. That's a quote, a shit show, in retaliation for the community's criticism of federal operations. The village stated that, quote, ICE agents told the BFD, the big fucking deal, I guess that'd be the Broadview Fire Department, that they will be launching enforcement action throughout all of Broadview throughout the day, end quote, and would be, quote, again deploying chemical arms such as tear gas, pepper spray, etc. against American citizens, end quote. So we have a First Amendment right to peaceful assembly. We do not have a First Amendment right to assault. And again, right now, yeah, these guys are on our team, or however you define your team. Be careful with politics to pick a team, because the left and the right are just 2 separate wings of the same shitty bird. Right? What did Messiah say? You shall know them by their fruits. So what are they doing? Are they oppressing people? Or are they supporting life? Pick one. They're easy categories for me. So right now, these guys are on our team. Great. If this was Biden that was doing this in different locations throughout the country for different reasons, people would be up in arms, which is why context matters. Portland, Oregon has become a particular flashpoint in the immigration debate. Mayor Keith Wilson has doubled down on the city's sanctuary status, saying, quote, as a proud sanctuary city and a sanctuary state, we're committing to protecting the rights and dignity of all who live here, end quote. Now, immigrants have different rights than Americans do. And now there'll be lots of people who say that's BS, that's, whatever. That's unbiblical, whatever. All right. There's a fair amount of taxpayer dollars, your taxpayer dollars, my taxpayer dollars, and a fair amount of infrastructure that is dedicated to the care of immigrants. And there is a difference between people who are legitimately seeking asylum from countries where they had nothing going on, and the terrorists and the voter base who have been intentionally imported into this country by the previous administrations. Those are 2 different things. So there's a separating of the wheat from the chaff here, if you will. And it's going to get ugly. And frankly, I don't think it's been ugly enough thus far. I don't think they've done enough of it thus far. This is one of the things that Trump campaigned on, and I think he could go significantly harder than he already has. This is already an unpopular strategy with half the country. Okay, why be so concerned about optics? Especially when we've declared Antifa a terrorist organization, when we've declared the cartels a terrorist organization, and we have naval iron off the coast of Venezuela right now. If you're going to go hard. Go speed, surprise, violence of action. This stance of Mayor Keith Wilson puts $350 million in federal funding at risk. On September 27th, President Trump directed Hegseth to provide all necessary troops to Portland, authorizing full force if necessary, describing the city as war-ravaged and claiming ICE facilities are under siege by Antifa and other domestic terrorists. The announcement was immediately opposed by Oregon and Portland officials, who said the deployment was neither requested nor needed. Okay, sure. Now, a couple of things. Let's handle some business. First of all, thank you to everybody on Patreon. You're the economic engine of the Bear Nation. Next, refugemedical.com. I am seeing a fair number of indicators from my end regarding the bulk purchasing of pre-hospital trauma medicine components and kits, and we are sourcing everything from tourniquets to field hospitals for professional customers. I'll just leave it at that. We've seen these same things prior to and then during the early days of the special military operation in Ukraine, and just prior to and then during October 7th. And we're seeing it again now. So act with that intel as you will. I will also tell you, you do not have enough med. And I can say that because I own buildings full of medical supplies. And I don't feel like I have enough med for whatever's coming next. You also don't have enough training. And I can say that because we have trained thousands and thousands and thousands of people, whether it's regular people all the way up to legitimate Navy SEALs and U.S. Army Special Forces. And I don't feel like we've got enough training. And we are more equipped and capable than the EMS Corps in our county. And that's not hyperbole. So do the things. All right? Beans, bullets, Band-Aids. I hate that we may need these things, but all the indicators are pointing towards we may need these things. And to that point, I've been getting a lot of calls from a lot of pastors, probably in the last 60 days, saying, hey, we want to book some time. We're ready for this Defender class that you teach. Can you please come teach us? And the answer to that is yes. We figure out a date on the calendar, and then we go teach church security. But in light of everything that's been going on, I have made the Defender series of classes for the first time ever available publicly. It's not a shill. The reason that's a big deal, it's the same reason why we don't make law enforcement training typically available publicly, is because I don't want the bad guys to know what we're teaching them. Okay, so it's private classes by appointment only. And so the attendees to the public Defender class will be vetted. Simple as that. However, in light of the current socioeconomic struggles, if you carry a weapon to church, which you should, whether your denomination frowns upon it or not, you should. If you carry a weapon to church, you need to know how to use it for the preservation of life, and you need to know how to handle the first 4 minutes of your problem. It's as simple as that. So we'll be going over force-on-force scenario-based training in the Defender class for churches, including an active shooter and multiple active shooters and complex attacks on a place of worship. And then how to establish a casualty collection point, how to triage massive hemorrhage, tourniquets, wound packing, airway, respiratory, elevation to 911. Well, yeah, that's simple. You call 911. All right, but what does that look like? How do we land a helo? Okay, how do I interface with law enforcement, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? How do I simply identify bad guys? How do I know when the attack is over? What is a hot zone, a warm zone, and a cool zone? All these things. refugemedical.com. Click the training tab. And if there's anything that we can help you with, whatever it might be, training, kits, components, field hospitals, if there's something you want but don't see on the website, just because it's not on the website, doesn't mean I can't get it, okay? If it's a medical component on planet Earth, I can get it. So call the store, shoot us a chat on the website, shoot us an email. However we can help you, we will, for the preservation of life. That's what we're about. With that being said, I will see y'all when I see y'all. Share the show. It's the only way we grow. And also, welcome to all the noobs. Everybody have a blessed day. Go out there, be the light, and don't take any shit off of anyone.